Hello everyone, my name's Gary Wills. I just want to introduce you to episode 14 in my series of videos on my wargaming activities, and this one deals with the attack of the British Guards Brigade on the 18th of August 1793 at the little village of Lincelles on the border between France and what is now Belgium. This is a black powder war game in 15mm scale. Thank you. First, a bit on the campaign background, and the first thing I need to say is that although the battle honour is spelt with a C, Linselles, the actual place name has always been spelt with an S, and this relates to an anomaly between various contemporary maps of the area used by the different combatants. Anyway, in August 1793, the Allies had just taken the fortress of Linselles, just inside the French border, and they were faced with a choice as to what to do. Paris was only 126 miles away, and obviously the total war philosophy would have led them to march directly on Paris. However, the British government wanted the Duke of York to attack Dunkirk on the coast, which had always been a desired outcome of the campaign, and the Austrians, their allies, preferred to attack another fortress, Le Quesnoy, and so the Duke of York marched from Valenciennes towards the coast, and on the 18th of August they were close to the little village of Linselles. In the early morning of the 18th, as the Duke of York marched to Menin, the Prince of Orange with his Dutch forces used the support of the Duke of York to attack the French outposts, which were under the command of future Marshal MacDonald, and occupied the two little posts of Le Blétan and Lincelles. And the attack at dawn was successful in driving off the inferior French outposts. However, in the afternoon, another future French Marshal, General Division Jourdan, along with MacDonald and Bayrou, decided that they would attack the villages of Linselles and Le Blétan with their forces and drive off the Dutch, which they successfully did. The Dutch commander at Linselles, who was mortally wounded that day, sent off a request to Menin for reinforcements to help them hold back the large numbers of French that were coming his way. And as a result, the Prince of Orange asked the Duke of York for support, and the Duke of York sent the brigade of guards to Linselles to retake it. So now the French order of battle for the fight in the evening at Linselles. General Division Jourdan led the troops, and in total he had about 9 battalions of infantry. They had also a half company of artillerie légère or horse artillery, plus some battalion guns. The troops had been reinforced by 2 small detachments, the Légion Franche Étrangère and the Légion Belge. Altogether there were 5,000 men and 11 to 14 guns. However, that's not the whole story. Jourdan had a great deal of trouble getting his men to face the British, as they were far too busy looting the houses in the village. And so, to determine which battalions were actually available for the defence, I rolled a d6 for each battalion, and on a score of 1 or 2,
the unit remained in the village. And then on each move that followed, the lost units could roll a further d6, and on a score of 6 could deploy out of the village and receive orders as normal.
So for this particular game, the looters, as I've termed them, were as follows. In Jordan's brigade, they were the 2nd Battalion of the 12th Regiment, and in Beru's brigade, they were the 1st Battalion of the 47th Regiment and the 2nd Battalion of the La Vienne Volunteers.
So the British order of battle is much simpler. Major General Gerard Lake, who'd served in the American Revolutionary War, had 3 battalions of guards: the 1st Foot Guards, the Coldstream Guards, and the 3rd Foot Guards, later the Scots Guards. And these each had 2 6-pounder battalion guns with them. So in total he had about 1,300 men and 6 guns.
There's quite a big difference in the quality of the two sides. So although the French outnumber the British by 3 to 1, this is compensated for by their profiles in the game. So the French start with a staff rating of 7, and their close combat scores are reduced by 1 to 5 for a standard battalion. Shooting score also reduced by 1 to 2. Their morale save is made worse, but 5+, but their stamina stays the same at 3. All of the French battalions are considered to be unreliable, so they don't move on an equal staff rating. And the 2 battalions, the 1st Allier and the 2nd Paris Volunteers, are large. The battalion guns are given the profile 2-1-1 in the game, and the horse artillery 3-2-1, and these reflect the relative sizes of the batteries. The fortifications give a +1 to the morale save of the defenders. For the British, Lake is given a staff rating of 8, and the battalions are given close combat scores slightly better than normal at 7, shooting normal at 3. The morale save is improved at 3+, and their stamina is as normal 3. In this game, the guards are given the steady special rule, which means they always pass or get a maximum score on their first break test. They're also elite 3+, reliable, and they have first fire. The 3rd Foot Guards are in this scenario large, and their battalion guns have the same 2-1-1 profile. The numbers at the bottom represent the relative points total, and although the French outnumber the British, the points were a lot closer, with 580 to just under 400.
Another feature of the French armies of this time were the attachment of these representatives of the people from the National Convention. And these are civilians. René Levasseur was a surgeon by training, but he had been attached and came with Jourdan to observe the sacred fire in the soul of the French soldier and help them. He actually did well on the day. He showed significant bravery according to observers, and so one feature added to the game was to attach him to a unit, any unit, and with a command test, a straight command test of 7, if he succeeded, he gave that unit either terrifying charge in an attack situation or stubborn in a defense situation, showing his inspirational effect. If he failed, there was no effect if he scored 8+. However, if he blundered, he fled the field, and the unit he was with was forced to take a break test. So this adds a little bit of the character of the French Revolutionary armies to the game. So this shows the battlefield map and the deployment. The green areas show orchards that are all hedged enclosures. and there's the odd hedged field as well. There are farms scattered all over the place, but none of them are seen to be tactically significant. The town of Lincelles itself can't be garrisoned. It's full of looters, and you can see the two redoubts to the right of Linselles, which the French can occupy. The guards march on from the top right corner of the battlefield, as it's shown on this map. In terms of victory conditions for the British, it's simple. They either have to capture the redoubts or break both French brigades. On the other side of the coin, all the French have to do is break or shake all three of the British Guards battalions. The Guards fought particularly well on this day, so I've made it a bit more difficult to break them. So here's some photographs of the game, and ringed here is the deployment of the British Foot Guards. The lead battalion is the 1st Foot Guards. In the centre, in their usual place according to normal precedence, is the 3rd Foot Guards, and in the rear is the Coldstream Guards. And this photograph shows you the French deployment as a whole. Ringed here are Barreu's forces, 3 battalions, including his tirailleurs, deployed as you see here. He's put the 4 battalion guns from his command in the redoubt as a place of safety for them. On the other flank are Jourdan's men, and you can see the infantry deployed to support the redoubt. The light artillery and the horse artillery are deployed actually in the redoubt, and you have Jourdan's own tirailleurs ready to advance and harass the oncoming guards. And here we are in the game proper at the end of British turn 1, and you can see here the 2 leading guards battalions have deployed into line, along with the battalion guns have also deployed ready to fire. On the other hand, the Coldstream Guards are still moving towards the left wing to take up their position, and obviously they're moving faster on the road in march column. So in the French turn 1, Jourdan has moved his skirmishers forward towards the orchard in order to get them in position to harass the oncoming guards. Likewise, on the other flank, Barreu's sent his tirailleurs forward towards another orchard from which they can also harass the guards. We're now at the end of British turn 2, and as you can see, the whole brigade is now in one line and have advanced by one move up the slope. You can also see the war base's first fire tokens, which had just arrived, have magically appeared. The battalion guns for the British also opened fire and had immediate success, causing a casualty on Barreu's large unit. In French turn 2, Jourdan's tirailleurs were moved forward into the orchard, and from there they're in a good position to bring the Coldstream Guards under fire. On the other flank, the French artillery opened up and were able to cause some disorder and a casualty on the 1st Foot Guards. Now in British turn 3, and the 1st Guards shook off the effects of the disorder using their elite 3+ status, and immediately launched a charge on the French skirmishers. Those skirmishers got a successful evade roll and moved well out of the way of the guards as they came forward. In the centre on turn 3, the other 2 guards battalions raced through the bean field and reached the hedge on the other side. The
the French turn 3 began with the 2nd Paris volunteers charging the 1st Foot Guards. And although Beru had moved a further battalion up in support, the charge was of no avail, and the 1st Guards sent them away with a flea in their rear. And this shows the overall position at the end of French turn 3. So at the beginning of British turn 4, the Scots Guards charged to the redoubt. In the closing fire, they were disordered and had a casualty inflicted on them, and this had a knock-on effect. In the break test, they only scored 6, which is a result of 5. Normally this would be a retreat result, but because they had the steady special rule, they were unable to ignore that. However, things didn't get any better in the melee that followed, because neither side scored casualties, and so the fight went on to the next move. Meanwhile, in the melee between the 1st Guards and the 10th Soigneurs Volunteers, this went very bad for the 1st Guards, and they lost the melee, were shaken with 1 excess casualty. They then proceeded to throw a 4 on their break test, which again would normally have broken them, but with the steady special rule they were able to stand firm. Also on this flank, the battalion guns for the Guards Brigade managed to score some more disorder on the 2nd Parisian Volunteers. Meanwhile, the Coldstream Guards had moved forward across the hedge, ready to advance in support of the Scots Guards. Meanwhile, in French turn 4, the melee involving the 1st British Guards continues. Because of the disorder, the French are unable to bring their supporting battalion into the melee. On the French right flank, the Coldstream Guards have come under fire, and a casualty has been inflicted. In the centre, the Scots Guard, or the 3rd Foot Guards, have overcome the artillery crews in the redoubt and broken them and captured the redoubt. However, the more bad news for the French, the 10th Soigneurs Volunteers were forced to retire as a result of their ongoing combat with the 1st Guards. And the 1st Guards, although victorious, decided that it would be better to retire themselves to be covered by the guns, so they could rally off the shaken status. And here's an overview of the battlefield at the end of French turn 4, and you can see that although the 3rd Foot Guards have been victorious, they are in quite a vulnerable position, surrounded by French battalions. Now on to British turn 5, and the Coldstream Guards, rather than sit under artillery fire, chose to charge forward and contact one of Jourdan's battalions. Supported by the distraction of the Coldstream Guards, the Scots, or the 3rd Foot Guards, redeployed themselves to face the threat offered by the still intact units of Beru's brigade. Also on British turn 5, Lake took the opportunity to rally casualty off of the 1st Guards and bring them back into the fight. Meanwhile, the melee or close combat between the Coldstream Guards and Jourdan's infantry resulted in a draw, given the support the French had, and both sides stayed where they were. We're now on French turn 5, and the first thing that happened is Beru didn't like the odds facing his large shaken battalion, so he withdrew them one move down the slope to get them out of our infantry musket range. In the centre, Jourdan sent forward the 1st Battalion of the 45th Infantry Regiment to threaten the rear of the 3rd Foot Guards. Meanwhile, the Coldstream Guards eventually won their close combat, and this forced their opponents to retire and move away and become disordered. And we're now in British turn 6, and the first thing that happened on initiative was that the 3rd Foot Guards turned to face the French infantry to their rear. In support, the 1st Foot Guards were sent by Lake up to the hedge line of the orchard to protect the rear of the 3rd Foot Guards. Meanwhile, the artillery fire from the battalion guns had the desired effect on the retiring 2nd Parisian volunteers, causing excess casualties and breaking them in the break test. Meanwhile, the Coldstream Guards charged on to contact the small section of battalion guns, becoming shaken in the process due to the closing fire, but scoring two casualties on the artillerymen and breaking them. As they were now shaken, the Coldstream Guards chose to retire out of harm's way so that they could be rallied. In French turn 6, the 1st Battalion 45th Infantry Regiment charged in to the 3rd Foot Guards, becoming disordered and losing a casualty in the closing fire. Jourdan also sent his large battalion, the 1st Allier Volunteers, forward to try and outflank the British position. Meanwhile, Beru was trying to rally his remaining close order battalion without success. The close combat between the 1st 45th and the 3rd Foot Guards ended in a resounding victory for the 3rd Foot Guards, shaking them and creating excess casualties. And this resulted in a poor break test, and the 1st 45th were broken. We're now on British turn 7, and the first thing that Lake needed to do was to get the Coldstream Guards into a defensible position, and so he withdrew them and form up alongside their own battalion guns. And so the Guards Brigade at least is now in one line. The fire from the Coldstream Guards and their artillery had an immediate effect on the 1st Allier, causing them a casualty and some disorder. In the centre, the 3rd Foot Guards chose to fire on the supporting French infantry battalion, and causing them a casualty and some disorder. Finally, in British turn 7, the 1st Foot Guards along the hedge line brought their French opponents under fire, and this resulted in them becoming disordered, which would have prevented them from being rallied next turn. We're now on French turn 7, and Jourdan has withdrawn the horse artillery from the southern redoubt so they can better engage the oncoming Guards units. Also on French turn 7, the fire of the artillery and infantry is starting to take its toll on the Guards Brigade. The Coldstream Guards are already shaken, and both the 1st Guards and the 3rd Foot Guards are only one casualty away from being shaken. Finally, in French turn 7, the disorder that had prevented Beru from rallying his last battalion, close order battalion, was removed. Now moving on to French turn 8, the first important business of the day of the turn was for Lake to rally the Coldstream Guards and remove their shaken status. Their fire then caused more casualties and more disorder on the 1st Allier in front of them. Meanwhile, the 1st Guards maintained their position on the orchard hedge, unable to force any more casualties onto their opponents. Now we're on French turn 8, and Beru sends forward his tirailleurs to try and outflank the first guards. And this bears immediate dividends, with further casualty inflicted on the first guards, which results in them being shaken. Meanwhile, in part because of the close proximity of the first foot guards, the Beru was unable to rally off the shaken status of his last remaining close order battalion. Meanwhile, on the other flank, Jordan didn't fancy the chances of his infantry column advancing on the third foot guards and enduring the closing fire, so he withdrew them so to enable the horse artillery to take effect. And an effect it did have, because now at the end of French turn 8, 2 of the 3 guards battalions are shaken. It's both the first foot guards and the third foot guards. So we're now in British turn 9, and obviously the first priority for Lake was to get to the third foot guards and to rally off their shaken status, which he did successfully. Meanwhile, the fire of the first foot guards, although they were shaken, was enough to cause disorder on their opponents, preventing them from rallying in their own turn. Meanwhile, on the opposing wing, the first allies are again disordered by the fire of the Coldstreams. Now moving on to French turn 9, and the first allié, deciding that discretion is the better part of valour, took a disorderly retreat move to get themselves out of close range from the guns and musketry range from the Coldstream guards. On the other flank, Beru's skirmishers could press their advance to get into close range of the first foot guard. In the centre, the fire of the horse artillery on the third foot guards caused some disorder, but no more casualties. Meanwhile, in the orchard, the disorder is removed from the French infantry column that's stuck there. Hopefully they'll be able to rally next turn. So now on British turn 10, Lake continues his ride around the Guards Brigade, this time rallying a casualty off of the first Guards and thus securing the future of the brigade. The Coldstreams battalion guns, meanwhile, caused more disorder on the first allié, although no more casualties. We're now in French turn 10, and at last Beru is able to rally 1 casualty off of his 10th Soigneurs Volunteers. Meanwhile, the fire of the battalion guns of the first allié, together the fire of Beru's tirailleurs, results in both the Coldstream Guards and the first foot guards being shaken again. So we're now on British turn 11, and the third foot guards have adjusted their position slightly so they can bring Jordan's infantry under fire and cause them some disorder. Meanwhile, Lake was busy rallying again the first foot guards to keep them in the fight. The Guards battalion guns opened fire on the French tirailleurs and at least caused a casualty. So this is an overview of the game at the beginning of French turn 11, and you can see the precarious position that Lake has his brigade in. In the orchard next to the town, Beru gets the 10th Soigneurs Volunteers moving forward towards the first guards, hoping to exploit their shaken status, but unfortunately they didn't have enough movement to make it into contact this turn. And again, at the end of French turn 11, the fire of the tirailleurs and the French battalion guns was enough to result in 2 of the 3 guards battalions again being shaken. So we're now at the beginning of British turn 12, and straight away Lake is successfully rallying off a casualty from the 1st Guards, and that removes their shaken status. In the centre, the 3rd Foot Guards are firing on the on Jordan's infantry without much success, it has to be said. However, critically on Beru's flank, his tirailleurs become shaken by the fire of the British battalion guns. Meanwhile, in the orchard, the 1st Foot Guards open fire on the 10th Soigneurs, inflicting a casualty and shaking them again. So in French turn 12, the tide is starting to move against them at this point, so Jordan sends in his infantry battalion to charge the 3rd Foot Guards. However, the closing fire of the 3rd Foot Guards stops the charge in its tracks and forces them to retire disordered. At the beginning of French turn 12, it was determined that Beru's brigade had been broken, and he had lost a unit altogether, and both his remaining infantry battalions were in the field were shaken, which reaches his breakpoint of 3, and he was forced to retire his unit. So you can see, but also the tirailleurs were falling back in the face of the British artillery fire. However, the failure of the charge of the French infantry on the 3rd Foot Guards allowed the horse artillery to shoot and cause some disorder and a casualty on the 3rd Foot Guards, shaking them. Similarly, the retiring tirailleurs were able, as a last gasp, to disorder the 1st Foot Guards as they went. We're now on turn 13, and the first order of business is for Lake to get into position so that he could rally one of his 2 shaken battalions next turn. Meanwhile, the fire of the 3rd Foot Guards forced another retirement on Jordan's infantry. With the Coldstreams, their artillery caused yet another casualty on the 3rd Dalier, and this brought them close to shaken status. So now we're at the start of French turn 13, and it became clear that Jordan had also reached his broken breakpoint of 3 units shaken or destroyed, and consequently his unit started to withdraw. So with Beru's units already retiring from the field, that really heralded the end of the game. So with both French brigades broken, victory goes to the British, and this scenario really shows how tight the game can be despite the numbers involved. I think giving the British Guards battalions steady as a special rule is quite essential for this game, and in episode 15 you can get us an idea of what happens if they don't have that special rule.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please look out for my other videos on my YouTube channel, and also look out for my publications, Wellington's First Battle, which is also about the French Revolutionary Wars, Wellington at Bay, which is about the Peninsular War, and also have a chapter in the Hellions' Glory is Fleeting on McCune's division at Salamanca. So as I say, if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe in the normal way. Thank you very much.